Welcome. Today we're going to operate a flight from LaGuardia Airport, New York, to Raleigh-Durham International Airport, in North Carolina. We created our route of flight on simbrief.com. It has us climb to flight level 360. Here is the route of flight. It will be direct to White, Q409 to Villa, then direct to Nails, Q141 to Hookie, then the tackle to arrival into Raleigh. LaGuardia is departing on runway 4, and Raleigh is landing to the north. Let's build the route in the FMC. First we can add the departure airport and destination airport codes. Based on the ATIS, we are expecting runway 4, so select that on the departures page. When we enter the first waypoint, White, we're asked which white we want. Pick the top one. Continue and enter the rest of the route, airway on the left, waypoint on the right. With the en route waypoints entered, select the expected destination runway and arrival. Changing the navigation display to plan mode, we can do a route verification. Both pilots participate in this, with one pilot stepping through the route, verbalizing the legs, while the other pilot compares to the ATC clearance and charts. If the first altitude on the arrival is at or above and below altitudes, it's good practice to change it to a fixed altitude, so GeoPath is activated, enabling the speed window to be opened if needed, and still remain in VNAV path. This would be necessary if ATC assigned a speed on the arrival. The route distance on the prog page, in the FMC, or box, is compared to the distance shown on the flight release. Set the fuel load to Pushback, with at least the release fuel shown on the dispatch release. With the checklists completed, doors shut, and a clearance obtained, the aircraft is pushed back from the gate. At the direction of the captain, the first officer starts both engines. After the number 2 engine has started, the packs are reconfigured to supply air to the cabin. With 2 good starts, the packs and isolation valve are switched to auto, and the APU bleed switch set to off. Once cleared for takeoff, a check is made for traffic on final approach, and both to the left and right of the aircraft, before entering the runway. The lights are switched on, and any remaining items on the checklist completed. Thrust is increased to 40% in 1, once stabilized, toga thrust is selected. At 80 knots the pilot monitoring calls out, 80. The pilot flying checks his displayed speed, and if matches responds, check.
Positive rate of climb.
The autopilot is now engaged. ATC assign a left turn to heading 330. We're now cleared to 10,000 feet, and assigned a heading of 180. When cleared to white, we switch to plan mode and check we've selected the correct waypoint, before executing. Then select LNAV, and check it became the active mode. With the TAT at 10 degrees, the engine anti-ice is switched on. Once above the clouds, the engine anti-ice can be switched off again. We're cleared all the way to our cruise altitude of flight level 360. We'll want to check on the cruise page if the aircraft has the performance to safely climb to that flight level, without leveling off lower to burn fuel first, lowering weight. Passing flight level 180, the altimeters are set to standard, and the landing and taxi lights can be switched off. As the aircraft approaches level off, at flight level 360, attention is made to ensure the aircraft levels off, and doesn't exceed the assigned flight level. We can now start preparing for the arrival and approach into Raleigh. First step, checking the weather. Even though the route was checked at the gate, the arrival is once again checked. A mental note is made of the bottom or lowest altitude on the arrival. Once we're cleared to descend on the arrival, we'll set that on the MCP. Looking at the arrival, we'll be on the east side of the airport. Unless quiet, it's unlikely they'll vector us across the 5 right final approach to 5 left. A look at the note states to expect an RNP approach to runway 5 right. Let's update the FMC for that. After selecting the approach, the legs are checked, and a 2-mile ring created around the final approach fix for situational awareness. We double-click R2 on the approach reference page to populate a flaps 30 reference speed. On prog page 4, we enter an RNP value of 125 feet. And on the nav status page 2, we turn off VOR updating. After using the briefing strip to set up for the approach, we can brief it.
We're set up for the RNAV GPS Yankee approach to runway 5 right. Chart 12-2. February 19th, 21, effective February 25th. Do you have any threats on the approach? Final approach course is 54 degrees and perm at 2,200 feet. Mints are 688 feet and weather's better than 2,400 RVR and a half a mile. The runway is 7,500 feet long, longer than the landing assessment. Planning a left turn off at Charlie, note hotspot 1. If we go around, we'll climb to 1,000 feet, then make a climbing right turn to 2,600 feet, direct to Zeeble where we'll hold as published. Questions or comments?
We were cleared to descend on the arrival and are descending to 6,000 feet. At flight level 180, we switch to the local altimeter setting and turn on the lights. Noting the time, we check for a new weather report. The aircraft has slowed to 240 knots, but the next waypoint has a 250 knot speed constraint. Why are we not at 250 knots? Looking at the descent page, it's set up for 240 knots below 10,000 feet. Changing this to 250 knots fixes the issue. It's important to monitor what the automation is doing and be thinking ahead to what is required. The aircraft is slowing to meet the next restrictions of 210 knots and 6,000 feet. Be aware of the flaps up speed, we may require flaps. Once we're cleared for the approach, we can set 700 feet, which are our mints rounded up to the next 100 feet. When we're at least 300 feet below the missed approach altitude, we can set the missed approach altitude on the MCP.
Traffic. 500. Approaching minimums. 400. Minimums. 200. 100. 50, 40, 30, 20, 10.
Welcome to Raleigh. We've taken a look at the setup and operation of the 737 on our flight today from LaGuardia to Raleigh. If you enjoyed, please like, please subscribe, and we hope you'll join us next time when we learn more about the 737. Thank you.